hello campers. So here's a little bit of a bonus video. So as you know, I'm obviously in France at the moment, and there's some great bike dealers in Perigeaux where I live, and one of the best ones here is Challenge 24, where they do Kawasaki, but they also do the QJ motors. So you might have seen me go out on some of the SRTs, the adventure bikes. But I was going past today and I noticed they had the KLEs in. Now they've got quite a few of these KLEs in here, these 500s. And I thought it'd be interesting to have a quick look. The thing that strikes you immediately when you see these bikes is how big they are. It's a really tall bike. And I think it's one of the tallest bikes in its class. The other thing I noticed is just how great they look. And I've said this before, it's taken a while for some of the major brands to sort of get on the wagon with this, because people want these smaller capacity adventure bikes. But there's a few things that set this one apart from the others, which give it a bit more credential. And I know the thing is that we see these bikes and we think, well, these are going to be like epic off-road bikes. But I think the KLE, it fits into both camps. It's a bit of a smaller capacity sort of adventure tourer, but also has pretty good off-road credentials. Because one, you get the 21-inch front wheel, which is really important. And then on the other hand, you get this thing where the ground clearance is pretty low. It's one of the lowest in the group, which is quite strange. And I was watching, I think it's Fortnite, did his review of this, and he was saying how easy it is to bottom out. And you do get, if you go for the sort of like the top spec, you get the bash plate on the bottom, which is actually quite critical if you're going to take it off-road. But the other thing that I really like about this bike, apart from the fact it's priced squarely in that market, isn't it? Sort of about 6.3 on the road if you go for the high spec, and it's about 5.995 if you go for the base model. Is that what I think Kawasaki have done? They've not overcomplicated it. They've given us a bike which is a bit more basic. You've got mod cons with ABS and all that sort of stuff, but I think the thing is they've given you the engine which has been around since God was a boy. So it's a nice reliable engine, and also it's a twin. Now I know that a lot of the Chinese bikes have gone to twins, but when you look at the likes of let's say Enfield, they've gone for singles. And I think in this sort of area, when you're looking at a bike which will do well for touring and off-road, the thing about having a twin, it just gives you a bit more. I'm not sure what it gives you more of, it just gives you a bit more. I know it gives you more cylinders, but it just has that, slight reassurance. I know what it's like when I rode my CB500X last year on that big tour. Having a twin, it just gives it a slightly more relaxed feel to it, less vibration. Although having said that, the other interesting thing about this bike is that the engine is quite high revving, so it gives you the full beans of its power at the higher rev range, sort of around 10,000 revs, which can make it a slightly tiring. But I think it means you've got a lot of revs to play with, sort of 0 to 10,000. But I think this is class leading because it's over 50 horsepower. So it's not, they've been pretty clever, and I think the reception for this bike was quite mixed, wasn't it? People say, well, it's not got this, it's not got that, it does this, does that. And people are a little bit disappointed. But I think once you get to ride it, I think you suddenly realise that it's actually a really nice bike. And I think the styling is probably the best in its class now. I really do. Let's have a quick sit on it. Oh, that is tall. That is tall. I think the nice thing about bikes like this is that it's got wide bars, which is really nice. And you know what I'm like? I like to have a bike in front of me, and I've got that. I've got a nice tank profile, nice wide bars. You've got plenty of space to put a nav unit on here, and you've already got a bar. Do you know that sort of thing where you think, oh God, I've got to buy this and I've got to buy that for it? It's a very simple design. I like the headstock. I like the way the bars are mounted on it. It just looks really good, really purposeful. And it's not cluttered. You know, you see some of these, particularly the Chinese bikes, you see that the switchgear and everything is, you know, they sort of machine gun as many buttons on there as they can. This is very uncluttered, very uncluttered. You also get the hand guards. These make such a big difference when you're touring, you know, because it takes the wind off your hand. And you can get away without having heated grips. You can just have heated gloves if you want. So that's really nice. The other thing I noticed about this bike is the standard of finish. It's very clean. The finish is good. The finish to the metal components is very, very good. Nice mirrors. I can see where I want to go, you know, see what's coming up behind me. I haven't got to sort of dodge my shoulders like I do on some bikes. The other thing I noticed, wheeling it around here this morning, you know, it just feels balanced. When I was messing about with those SRTs, you really felt like you were holding a bit of a pendulum, and it wasn't so stable. This, you know, this feels really, really good. Really good. I really like this. The thing about suspension on this, although it's quite a tall bike, I think it is incredibly forgiving. I think there's a strange thing with modern bikes where we tend to put such stiff suspension on. We think, oh, if you're going off-road, you want really stiff suspension. You don't. You want something that's really supple. Now, people might argue, well, this is a little bit too supple because it grounds out easy. But I'd sooner have that than being thrown off the back because it's just so hard. And I think, you know, I just think it's nice. You can, it's a funny thing, isn't it? You can sort of sense when something is great quality. And they've really taken their time, and I think maybe that's what Kawasaki were doing. Rather than, you know, just dragging their heels, they were just taking their time to get the product right, and I think they did that. So as I said before, I think where Kawasaki are going to score with this, they're giving you something which is basic. The engineering is simple. They're not being too clever. You know, they've not put too many gizmos on it. They've just given you a good basic tourer, semi-adventure, off-road, whatever you want to call it, bike with the key bits in there, with the decent sized front wheel. It'll do what you want, and there's not too much to go wrong with it. I think this is the key with these modern bikes, is that we're overcomplicating things. And I think when someone comes along and they just give you the great foundations of a good bike, that's what you want. Then you can spec it how you want it. You know, you can buy your bits and pieces and your pannier-ax and all the rest of it. You can do that how you want it. But what you want is a really good, basic, solid bike underpinning everything you're going to do with it. And I think that's what they've done here. I think that's a bit why you remember I was talking about the 411 Himalayan, you know, and it's the same with the 450 Himi, is that it's a good basic bike underneath. That's what you want. And you can build on that for what you want. I don't think people necessarily want tons of kit on their bike, because again, there's something I've said before. We like to personalise our bikes, don't we? I don't want the manufacturer to do that for me. I want to do that bit, but I want what I've got underneath all my bits and pieces. I want a really solid, reliable bike, and I think Kawasaki have done that. And I think as time goes on, I think this will become a very, very popular bike in the market. Because mainly it's Kawasaki, it's got a good engine in it, it's a twin, and it just looks the part. But there you are. That's my thoughts on the KLE. I'm quite surprised how lovely this is. But yeah, get down to your dealers. They are sort of coming. They are about now. And if you're in perigeaux, they got quite a few in here. Mainland Europe seems to get stuff a lot quicker than the UK because it's such a big market, isn't it? So they want to get them out here. But yeah, thanks to the guys at Challenge 24. They always come up trumps. Right, thanks for that. Hope you enjoyed that. But I'll see you in the next one. Cheers, take care.